The altar Rebbe was arrested in the second half of Tishrei in the year and that was 2 years after he printed the Tanya. The Tanya came out in the year of Zion. The altar Rebbe began gathering together the manuscripts and things that he'd written by hand for the Tanya 20 years before that, in the year of It took him 20 years to actually prepare the Tanya for its final going to print. So he was arrested 2 years after the Tanya actually appeared. And the Maggid was Mistalik, and the Ritzel Maggid passed away in the year of Tov Gimel, which was 4 years before the altar began to prepare the manuscript printing. So after that time, in the year after the passing of the Maggid, in the year Tov the altar decided he wanted to go to Eretz. So how did that happen? Because of Mendel Vitebsk, or Mendel as it's called, Russian. The Russian city was called Mendel Horodovka. He was the official for the time being. He was the official Jewish Kima. They took over the place of the Maggid. And the altar Rebbe traveled him for 2 years like his Rebbe, even though they were friends. He and the altar Rebbe, they were fabrengen. So like this sort of Rebbe type relationship. But nonetheless, even though Mendel Vitebsk was a very young man, relatively speaking, he was held very much in venerance, very revered, I'm sorry, by all the other Talmudic Maggid, and he was literally considered the follower of the Maggid. But he decided shortly after he'd taken over the leadership that he was going to go to Eretz. And it was a big surprise to everybody because he was the one after the Maggid. But he decided that he was going to Eretz. And he took with him a whole group of people, about 300 families. He took with him, and they came to Eretz in the year of Tov. And it was very, very difficult. They had no fanosa, no money with them. Also, nobody knew how they can exist in Eretz. Well, nonetheless, he insisted coming. Remember the Vitebsk, he insisted on coming to Eretz. He's buried in Tveria. Now they've got a whole, I mentioned last night, they've got a whole moisture that they're building over there, over the cave, or right out where the cave is. And they also, they found a house that he used to live in, and they're going to make that, and it's going to be a whole big center in Tveria, where the Vitebsk actually lived. Even though he went to Tzfas first, but oddly enough, there were tremendous numbers of Mishnagdim in Tzfas. Yeah. Sounds rather strange. So shortly after the result, but there were a lot of very, very big, even when the Schwarz Kodesh came, he also went to the class with us. And he also had a lot of trouble with people who were misnagged to the Derech HaPnimius in Tzfas. So Mendel Vitebsk had to move his whole group down to Tveria. But anyway, suffice it to say that the altar Rebbe wanted to go with it. The altar Rebbe decided that he's also going to go with the whole person going to So the altar Rebbe went right across Europe with the Mendel Vitebsk, intending to go with him to Eretz. And when they got not far to where they take the ships, they used to take ships across the sea to Eretz. The Mendel Vitebsk had a dream. He had a dream, and he was told in the dream by Bezin Shumaila that he must tell the altar Rebbe that he mustn't he mustn't come with him, or he has to stay behind in Russia, and he has to be mechazik the whole thing, and he has to virtually take over the leadership of the Hasidus in Russia. So the Magi told the Alter Rebbe that he had this dream and that he must stay. So after a lot of discussion, the Alter Rebbe decided he wouldn't go. It was a tremendous effort on his part that everybody else is leaving. The Rebbe is leaving, everybody's going. Nonetheless, the Alter Rebbe decided to stay, and he went back across Russia to this place called the Ocean, the town where a lot of Yidden lived. And he became what's called the Magi. He wasn't the Rav, even though the truth is the Alter Rebbe is to Paskin Shabbos. In certain circumstances, the Alter Rebbe is to Paskin Shabbos, but he wasn't the Rav of the town. He was what's called the Magi of the town. In other words, he was called the Ocean of Magi. The Alter Rebbe was called the Ocean of Magi. And so in the year, Tov Kuf Nun Zayin, the Alter Rebbe added the Tanya, they actually printed the Tanya. And that's all the story how it happened. Last night I told you a bit of a story about the two people that appear in the Chittas today that we learned. Their last comments that they gave on the Tanya, the Zushia, Mianapolia, and the Yuda Lebakoyev. It just so happens to be interesting that the Maggid lived all his life in the city of Mezerich. And Rav Zushia, he lived most of his life when he wasn't traveling around. He lived in Anipolia, it's another city. And nowadays, if people visit the Maggid, does anybody know where the Maggid is buried? The Maggid is buried in Anipolia. He's not buried in Mezerich. So everybody else is sorry, how come that he's buried in this other town when he lived all his life in Mezerich? The story is like that there was a plague, a very terrible plague broke out late in the life of the Mezerich Maggid. And a lot of towns were hit very heavily, people died in great numbers. So the city of Mezerich was hit by the plague. And Rav Zushia, he invited the Maggid and all of his family to come and live with him in Anipolia, because the plague hadn't started yet. He said, if you come and live over here, then you'll be safe. So the Maggid came over with his family to Anipolia. But you weren't allowed to do that. In those days, if there was a plague, and there was one place where the plague hadn't hit, and you brought in people into the city from where it had been hit, then you were endangering that city because you bring something like a carrier of the disease. And the Pharaoh was forbidden to do that. And Rav Zushia knew it was forbidden. He knew it was forbidden to do it. Nonetheless, he brought the Maggid over with his whole family. So the council of the city, they got very angry. They heard that he brought in a family in the city to be hit by the plague. So they called in Rav Zushia and they said, listen here, how come you did this? You have to send that family immediately out of the city. You have to send them back. So Rav Zushia said, he's not going to do it. So they said, okay, you have to leave and we'll take action against you. So Rav Zushia said that he promises them that between now and the end of a year's time, that nobody will die in the city of Anipolia unless he's dying his natural old age. Well, nobody will die for a whole year for any other reason than natural old age. In other words, nobody's going to die from the plague or from any other unusual circumstance. So the people, the elders of the city, that's crazy. What's he saying to these things? And all of a sudden somebody stood up and he said, look, this man is he's a very revered person. And he always seems to tell the truth. And everything he's ever said, we've always checked it out to be true. So let's give him a run. So in the end, they let the Maggid stay in Anipolia. And they say, if you look up the annals of the city of Anipolia, you can find it out. If you look up the annals, then you'll find what's going on down there with the kind of stuff. Okay? I mean, you guys have you're not put a little kids with your eyes up and become all googly when you see a little bit of truth. So I think you can start acting like because remember, Zushia promised them this promise, and they say if you look up the annals of Napoleon, then you can find that during that year there was a tremendous drop in the death rate. And that almost no people died except for those who were very old. So Moshe Arnes, Jesus Christ, and therefore the Maggid, he passed away sometime later in the city of Napoleon. That's why he's buried there. Not many people know that that's the reason why he's there, not in Mesopotamia. Anyway, whatever, that's what happened with the Maggid. And the Alter Rebbe was Derek, from the Hay, Bob Stein, the Alter Rebbe settled in, what do you call it, the Yozhne, it became the Maggid there, and that's what he printed the town. So then they began, the whole Mishnah became very terrible at that time. And a little bit earlier, the Alter Rebbe and the Badisha tried to visit the Roman God. They went to see the Roman God, and they wanted to try and stop the whole terrible development of the Mishnah. And the truth of the matter is that the Roman God himself, he agreed to meet them. He said that he would meet the Alter Rebbe and the Badisha, and he would try to come to terms with them. However, the Roman God's mother, she was very against it. She was a great Mishnah. She was firm against him meeting the Alter Rebbe and the Badisha. So in the end, out of Kibbutz Ain, the Roman God decided not to see them. But they were actually in Vilna. The Alter Rebbe and the Badisha was just a short way away from the Roman God's house. And they wanted to meet him, and he was ready to meet them. He was actually ready to do it. But out of Kibbutz Ain, he had to stop, and he was. So all the things that happened later could have maybe, we see that the Asians didn't want him to be that way. They didn't manage to meet him, and they went. And the Badisha was very, very angry. He was very upset about it. And he wanted to make a cherem. You know, a cherem against the one. And he wanted so much, not just to make a cherem lamata, he also wanted to make a cherem lamayla, and he wanted to interfere with the shirsh and the shoma, the goy. That was a whole amazing miser. So the Badisha, even though he was, the Badisha was this tremendous lover of the Jewish people, so he came together with a couple other Talmidim and a Maggid to see the Alter Rebbe and to discuss with him how they're going to do it. And they say that when they went into the Alter Rebbe's room, the door was closed, it was quiet for a while, and all of a sudden there was these voices, these tremendous shouting voices were coming through the door. So all the Hasidim were astounded with all this shouting going on in there, and they all crowded up to get around the door to hear what was going on. And it was the Alter Rebbe who was shouting, because the Alter Rebbe was shouting on that point. And the Alter Rebbe was saying that he's not asking Shulim, it's not going to be done. And the Badisha and these other two people were arguing with the Alter Rebbe. We're going to stop all this Mishnah. And the Alter Rebbe said that that's not the way, it's not going to happen, it's not going to be done. And in the end, he convinced them to drop the whole idea. So they left the Alter Rebbe in a embarrassed way. And in a short time, fast and then there occurred the whole terrible arrest. But they came to get the Alter Rebbe because of their terrible Mishnah. So they came to get the Alter Rebbe, as I say, I think it was during Sukkot, after the first day of Sukkot, in Tov Kuf 10. This big coach, especially for, how do you call it, rebels against the government, came to get the Alter Rebbe with a whole bunch of soldiers. And they come to the Beis HaMedrash, where the Rebbe is, and they ask, where is he? So they go into the shul, and somebody points to the Alter Rebbe and says, that's him. So the Alter Rebbe was dressed in his talis and tefillin. He had his talis and tefillin, and they walked over and they took a look at him in the talis and tefillin, and they fled, all of them. They just took one look and they all fled out of the shul, out of the Beis HaMedrash. Everybody was amazed. And they fled, and they went away for a long time. And so some of the people came up to the Alter Rebbe and they said that when they came into the shul, we were also in talis and tefillin. We also were in talis and tefillin. But only when they saw you in talis and tefillin, that's when they That's when they fled. The Alter Rebbe said, the Gemara says, and said the prophets, the Gemara says that by V'ro Kol Amiho, it's the first in the Tefer, well after the Tefer, in Borim, V'ro Kol Amiho Oretz, Shishem Hashem Nikro Alecha, V'yon, all the people of the world will see that the Abish's name is called on you, and they'll be scared of you, they'll be frightened of you. So, Omer Rabbi Eliezer Godel, Rabbi Eliezer Godel is Rabbi Eliezer ben Ruch. He's one of the very early Tanoim. He was the Rabbi from Mitzvah. Rabbi Eliezer Godel, Eilu Tfilin Shebarot. In other words, what does it mean? Kishem Hashem Nikro Alecha means if you're wearing tefillin. If you're wearing tefillin, then the Goyim will see you and be scared of you. So, they said to the Alter Rebbe, they came in, they saw us and tell us. And they didn't get scared. When they saw you, they fled. So the Alter Rebbe said that the difference is, he said, if you look carefully in the Gemara, it should be written, Omer Rabbi Eliezer Godel, Eilu Tefillin She'al Ha'orosh. It should be written, you should wear tefillin on the head, you don't wear in the head. And it's written, Eilu Tefillin She'Virosh. What that means in simple, they're in the head. When they're not in the head, they're on the head. The Rebbe said the difference between you and me is, he said, your children are always on the head. He said, my children are ufen Kopf und in Kopf. He said, my children are both on my head, but they're in my head. Aren't they? Huh? That's a good lesson for you, England. And I mean, ufen Kopf and in Kopf. In other words, that the children don't just sit on the head, they have to be inside the head. They've got to be. The children have to sit on your head, but they have to sit inside the head. So the Alter Rebbe said that somebody who's like that they just see the children and they run. So now the Rebbe in the 6 Day War, that's when the Rebbe started the term Hitzah Tefillin. So the Rebbe brought down that story with the Alter Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, nowadays it's very hard to say to people how much holy by the Madriga the Alter Rebbe. But this is a secret of a person puts on tefillin, he means good, and he has good kavanah, and he means to be kind of aims, then there's a certain inyan of that by all Yidden what they put on tefillin. That was the Rebbe, the Machadish had all inyan. The Rebbe said that even if you put on tefillin in one part of the world, other Yidden, you tell the fact that they're going to, that they're not able to put on tefillin, they're blameless. They can't put on tefillin, and if you have in mind them, then you can be way to them. As people, they put on tefillin also. So the Rebbe said that there are certain soldiers that because of their situation, you can't reach them, you can't put tefillin on them. Although those soldiers that do put on tefillin, they keep them way to them. The ones that are unable to, amazing thing, the Rebbe about ever tune Shabbat. That's what the Alter Rebbe said, and these guys just went away, So everybody thought that they'd gone. But unfortunately they didn't. They went away and they hid for a while, and then they got back their gumption. And they came when they already home. They'd already gone home from the shul. They finished the house. And the saw them coming, so he said it's written on Pasik, Chabi ma'at ad ya ve'ozam. So Pasik in the Shaya know it, that you should hide for a while until the anger passes. Until the angry time passes, you should hide. So the Alter Rebbe ran into a room in the house and he hid behind a chair or a couch. The Alter Rebbe pushed into himself inside the house. So they came to the door and the Rebbetzin opened the door and they said, where's so she said she doesn't know. And so they hit her, they hit her very heavily. And she suffered years afterwards from the blow that they gave her in the face. Yeah, they hit her in the face. But anyway, she didn't break down. She just said that she doesn't know where he is. What was his wife's name? Stern, I think that is. It's Stern, yeah. So they went away. They thought that maybe they went away and they decided they'd wait till he comes back. So after that, when they came back the third time, or night time again, the Alter Rebbe gave himself up. Then the Alter Rebbe came calmly to the door and he gave himself up. And the night before, there occurred a very famous story about Shmuel monkeys. Do you know the story that happened to Shmuel monkeys?
Yes.
I don't know if you know the real story. You might have heard the story. But what happened was, the Alter Rebbe was in his house, and Shmuel monkeys came to the door, and he knocked on the door of the Alter Rebbe's house. The Alter Rebbe knew that they were coming. He knew that they were looking for. The things were bad. He knew for sure. So he was worried that maybe he was knocking on the door, might be these people. So he called through the door, who is it? The Alter Rebbe said, Veradot. In Yiddish, who is it? So the Shmuel Monk said, it's Shmuel. So when the Alter Rebbe heard that, he knew who that was, and he opened a little shutter. It was like a little door that you could open, and he spoke to this Shmuel Monk through the door. So Shmuel Monk said to the Alter Rebbe, what's the problem? You're not opening the door. What's the problem? The Alter Rebbe told him it could be they're coming to take it. So Shmuel Monk said, sorry, So the Alter Rebbe says to him, Shmuel, he said, what do you think, I should go with them or I shouldn't? That was the question. The Alter Rebbe said to him, should I go with them or should I not? So Shmuel Monk said to him, Rebbe, he said, the Monavshat. The Monavshat in the Gemara means the other way. It's either way, what you're saying is not good. The Monavshat means, by the way you look at it, you're not right. Therefore, he said to him, if you're an amateur Rebbe, and he said, kein Koil verteilt nicht nehmen. He said, a bullet won't be able to affect you. A Koil in the old Yiddish means a bullet. A Koil verteilt nicht nehmen. It won't take you, in other words, it won't affect you. And he said, however, if you're not a Rebbe, he said, die zugenommen, der Olam hatte from zämliche Teufel, you've taken away the good taste of this world from tens of thousands of Yidden. They said, it's due to your bullet here. Well, he said, if you're not a Rebbe and you've done what you've done, it's due to a bullet. Not everybody knows that that's what effect was. Usually the way they tell it is they take that part out. Well, that's in effect the truth. That's what he actually said. So he said, whichever way you go, he said, if you're not a Rebbe, then you've had it. If you're a Rebbe, it's not going to be able to do anything to you anyway. So what's the question? So the Alter Rebbe said, okay, I hear what you have to say. And the Alter Rebbe closed the shutter, and he went his way. When they came the next day, the Alter Rebbe was Mekayim first of all, Yodel and Rebbe. Then he was Mekayim Chavim Mahat. A little bit, and then he gave himself up. The whole touch is, why did the Alter Rebbe give himself up? Why did he give himself up? He would come to a deeper point. He would have to say that the Alter Rebbe wanted to pave the way for all the generations to come. The only way that the world can really be is not. I don't know, you see there's some sort of sign language with somebody across there. Anyway, to go. Is that the way to get to Pnim Soter and to the beauty of Pnim Soter in the world is only through the Source language. All of that act. Therefore, it's quite kind of Russian in Seder. If you push the Zayis, and that's the only way you get the Shem. Only by stretching the Zayis, that's how you get the Shem. I remember the Shem and the only by pushing, by stretching the size to get the shape. So the Alter Rebbe realized that he had to go on the Suez. There had to be some Indian where there would be this whole Indian of stretching the size. And then we come out the shape. So that's why he went. He went in order to pave the way for the generations to come. That if anybody needed to have themselves noticed that he'd already been waiting everybody. We've been cabbled, and it's the same thing with the Mitchell Rebbe. When he went in prison, India. So then they took the Alter Rebbe away, tremendously guarded thing, which was always for people who one in the crime were sentenced to 8 It was a very serious matter. They took the old delivery away in the coach. That's how the actual arrest occurred. I mean, we have to say the fire. We have to realize that we're all holding right now by the last minute. And Monsieur's damage, we've seen us being all generations in our Monsieur's now. And that's all in you now, just for Khatila. That's what the Rebbe generation, we can have everything just by lifting ourselves in a way that we go out of Medina's work like the bullet, which is also a Monsieur's nefesh, but it's a different type of Monsieur's nefesh that everybody can appreciate. But now that we're here in the yeshiva on Rosh Hashanah, we've got to make sure that we move out of all the previous ideas, all the previous things that are limited of milk. We start off our whole new year and the year with the Rebbe take from me out mamish in
Amen. Right now.
that thing goes all the way through from then on. That the Alter Rebbe was really in charge of the whole situation. And literally he was, in many ways, he was actually determined what was going to happen in all the situations that were alive. So if you ask yourself the question even more, like we mentioned a minute ago, you came what the whole purpose of the whole imprisonment. If he was anyway in charge of all. And that's what we see. A famous story that after they started traveling, it came close to Shabbos, and the Alter Rebbe told them that he wanted to stop for Shabbos. He wanted to travel after some time on Erev Shabbos, and he had to really stop and make your Shabbos for the whole thing. And everybody's familiar with the famous story how they refused to stop and the wheel broke off the coach. Then the axle broke and then the horse died and the whole story. Eventually they had to pull it to the side and they had to make under a bunch of trees to make a shop until they got another horse and another thing with all. Then it was already after shop because the days were already short. It was already approaching the winter. So by the time they got everything organized, it was anyway already after shop. And then there's another famous story. The Alter Rebbe was on the little boat going across the moon, and he wanted to say Kiddush Levana because he realized that when he got into it, he wouldn't be able to say Kiddush Levana. He saw the Levana, and he asked the guy who was running the boat, rowing the boat, he asked him to stop the boat. So at the beginning he didn't want, so the Alter Rebbe promised him that if he did, he would live for a long year. And he asked the Alter Rebbe for it in writing. So the Alter Rebbe gave him a temple in which he signed him that he would have for long years if he stopped the boat. So he stopped the boat and the Alter Rebbe said Kiddush Levana. So the truth is that guy lived until he was about 104 years old. And there's a whole sort of follow-up to it. The Heilige Ruzhner, you all heard of the Heilige Ruzhner, he was Mezritcher Magid's grandson. Mezritcher Magid said it's his Yortzeit last night, so it's still a Hemshech tonight. He had an Einikel who was called the Heilige Ruzhner. And the Heilige Ruzhner grandson was a very a very holy person, amazing. Without getting involved in all the things about him, but he was a contemporary with the Rebbe they were Rebbes in different places at the same time. So the Heilige Ruzhner, he once was traveling with a whole group. He was sitting in the area where the Alter Rebbe stopped the coach. So he said he wants to go and see the area. So they stopped and they found out where it was, and the Ruzhner made a whole little tour of the area, took a look at it, and then he said he wants to go on further, not far from here, there's a village where there's a very old goy that lives in the village. He must be well over 100, and he said he'd like to meet this goy. People didn't understand what was going on, so they go and they find this old fellow, and he's Spanish, was often moved like that. 104 is pretty old. He's still on his feet, and he was relatively all right. So they put him to meet the Heilige Ruzhner. And the Heilige Ruzhner couldn't speak to him in his, it was Ukrainish, it was, but he threw out an interpreter, he spoke with him. And he told him that he was the one that was in the boat, and that the Alter Rebbe eventually lived for long years, and he said he's only 104 years old, and he's doing like the Heilige Ruzhner. I spoke with him a few minutes, and then he said, okay, you can leave. So the people said, why did you have to do that? Why did you have to speak with him? And the Ruzhner said he wanted to see the kiyum of a bracha from the Balatanya B'Kashmir. He wanted to see how it actually worked. Mamish Kashmir said the Alter Rebbe gave a bracha, and here he was, Mamish, living to this old age. And they said that shortly after that, he just died. After the Ruzhner met him, he didn't live very much longer. He died shortly after. But also, the kiyum of the Alter was bracha. for having done. So when the Alter gets in, they put him in the cell. They started a whole new parsha that the Alter Rebbe didn't want to eat the food because the food they were bringing wasn't kosher. In the beginning, it was only the water. You know, he noticed that the Alter Rebbe wasn't eating. Whenever he bought food, the Alter Rebbe told him to take it back or to throw it away. So after about 3 or 4 times that this happened, he says to the Alter Rebbe, man, where are you going to live from? So the Alter Rebbe said to him, I got it in my bag. I have in my bag. So he said, listen, I was part of the crew that they searched all your belongings when you came in. He said, in your bag was a little piece of crust, of old bread. I don't know how that comes into the story, but the Alter Rebbe had a piece of crust in his bag, old bread. So he said, don't persuade me that you're going to eat that. So the Alter Rebbe said, yes, I am. So he says, that's not growing a feeler. So the Alter Rebbe said, you're going to bring me some water, and I'll dip it in the water and put something in it, I'll eat it. But the cow's going out to get the water, and the Alter Rebbe says, yeah, man, I'm sorry, but you've got to bring me some extra water. He said, what do you need extra water? He said, I've got to wash my hands. So the guy starts going out with his catering. All of a sudden, the Alter Rebbe realized that he could maybe have some very important information from this guy. Because when the Alter Rebbe was put in this cell, he thought, and rightfully, that this was a cell that you never left. I mean, the people never got out. And he said to this water, he said, what sort of people have you ever had here? Have they been nice to you? And he said, oh yes, there's been a few that I was very good to them, and they were very good to me. So the Alter said, what way were they good to you? So he said that when they eventually got out, they sent me a present. So the Alter heard from that there were people who eventually got out. So the Alter said, listen, whatever present they sent you, I'll do better. You just bring me that water, but I should better wash my hands. The water says to him, he said that little piece of crust, that's maximum going to keep you going, an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's a little piece of dry bread. What are you going to do with that? The Alter said, did you ever hear of the 10 Commandments, something like that? See, this guy wasn't a Kabbalah. So he said, yes, he heard of the 10 Commandments. So the Alter said that there was a man called Moshe Rabbeinu, and he got the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai from a ship. He said, you should realize he was 40 days on the mountain, and he didn't eat or he didn't drink. And then the age came, these 2 big stones. They were back in the great stone. Very heavy. What the Gemara says is a man could lift them. They were very heavy. He said, Moshe Rabbeinu lifted up the stones, and he went down the mountain like nothing. He said, 40 days, that's easy going. So, water says to the Alter, what are you? Are you this Moshe? Are you like this Moshe Rabbeinu? So the Alter said, I'll tell you what's like. So I'll give you a motion. Just imagine, he said every day at 12 o'clock there's a big, the king runs a big, bell rings in throughout the whole prison. All the staff, including you, all got to go and get there. And you got to get there at lunch, whatever it is, the dinner, right? So just imagine that you're standing on the mountain and you're listening to Hashem. Hashem's giving you the 10 Commandments. All of a sudden, bing, you hear the bell, you got to go get your dinner. You're standing, listen to you, you got to go run and get your dinner. He said to the Lord, he said, what would you do? Would you consider listening to the Easter, or would you want maybe lunch? He didn't know what to say, he didn't know what to answer. He said, maybe he would ask you if you could wait a while. Anyway, he was all confused. And all that. He he realized that maybe the Alter Rebbe was saying that he can do that. And he said, but wait a minute, that's only if you're listening to Hashem. If you're listening to Hashem, then he can say, well, he's talking to me, he'll look after me while he's talking to me. I can't go where I'm going to get the bread. He said, but you're not talking to them. He said, he's not talking to you the whole time. So the Alter Rebbe looked at him and smiled. All of a sudden he realized that, wow, maybe he's talking to a human being. This guy's, he got all carried away by the fact that he understood that the Alter Rebbe was saying to him that Hashem talked to him the whole time. Since he's standing in front of Hashem the whole time, he can't be bothered about eating. He can't, when the bell rings to eat, he can't be bothered with it. It's not his Indian. He got really scared, He said, listen, what do you need? He said, I need water, I need to wash my hands, you have to bring. He said, listen, you just tell me whatever you need and I'll look after you. So I'll really be good to you. And the Alter Rebbe said, well, we've already agreed that, I'll look after you, pudding. And so that's all straight up with the warden. However, the Alter Rebbe wouldn't eat the food. So in the end, the guys in the runners of the jail, they hear that the Alter Rebbe is not eating the food. He got on he's not eating the food. They were very angry because if God forbid he were to die from starvation, then they'd be in trouble. You understand? They didn't look after him, or they ignored him, or they tortured him, or who knows what. So they came in, and a whole big bunch of a couple of soldiers, and they brought in food, and they said to the Alter Rebbe that you got to eat the food. So the Alter Rebbe said he's terribly sorry, but he doesn't need food right now. He can't go for that food right now. They should come back another time. And so they got all angry, and they got these two soldiers to hold the Alter Rebbe down, and somebody tried to force the food into his mouth. The Alter Rebbe closed his teeth so strongly that they couldn't open his teeth. They tried even with an instrument to lever his teeth open. They couldn't get his teeth open. That's a whole amazing story. So there's a whole secret in the Rebbe. The Rebbe said that he got 32 teeth. 32 is I'll become more of the Islamic base and the sea base of Chokmah. Chokmah is a Chokmah. 32 like pathways that go from Chokmah down into Bina. And they start from before Chokmah. They start in Ari. They come all the way down into Bina. That's called one base Nasiba. The difference between a Shah and a Nasiba is that a Nasiba is a little big part, and a Shah is a big open public area. The Bina is got short of the Chokmah, so it's hidden pathway. So the Rebbe said that we've got 32 teeth because there's one base. The Rebbe said 32 teeth. What do you need the teeth for? That the teeth break the food, and that's Chokmah, and that's the food. The ikupura is through the teeth. And I mean, the whole reason why Hashem gave you teeth is to let something into your mouth which can be air. Something that you can purify and bring it to its right, then your teeth are made to chew that. Over he said there's another power in your teeth that they don't food in, that they won't have anything fun. That's why the Chokmah has also got a power to have Mesilas Nefesh. Then when the Alter Rebbe said, Tanya Fregi says that the Koach of Mesilas Nefesh is in Chokmah. And therefore it works both ways. Either, he said, your teeth let in those things that you can be Mavara, and you're supposed to be Mavara. That's why there's 32. But there's a very powerful Koach in your mouth that you just don't let things in that are not supposed to be in there. That's what the Rebbe said, that if a Yid closes his mouth really firmly, and he decides that certain thing's not going into his mouth, he said the Alter Rebbe showed that he can't move. It's an insurmountable koach. In other words, if we close our mouths the right way to things that are not supposed to be, then nothing can move. So they had these people, and their mom was trying to leave the Alter Rebbe's mouth open, and he just wasn't. All of a sudden, he came in, another guy, one of the ministers from the government, he came in and he wanted to visit the Alter Rebbe to see what he's like. He heard about him already. Not the Sardasos, another minister. And suddenly he sees this terrible scene, you know, the whole the old Torah done. This guy's got some sort of a lever. He's trying to lever the old Torah. And he sees that he was a, you know, an angel sort of man. He was shocked. You know, he saw this terrible situation. So he tells him, you know, kid, leave him alone. You know, get away. You know, stop this. And he stopped the whole thing. He took the old Torah and said, what should it do? What is it matter to you? What is the story? What are you trying to do? The old Torah explained him my idea of kosher. You know, people tell Torah. So he says, so this Sar says, the old Torah, where can we get you some kosher? Where do we get some kosher? Now you have to remember that up to now, the people outside did not know what happened to the old Torah. You know, his family, all the Hasidim, they taken the old Torah, they took him into the prison. Nobody knew what had happened. I mean, people thought that maybe he's only been accident. What do they do? They didn't even know where he is. And let's say they knew he was in that prison, but if he's alive or where, they didn't know. So all of a sudden the old Torah, his mind started racing. You know, this guy says, where can I get you kosher? He took right on him. He said, where can I get you? So the old Torah also thought, he said, the only kosher food that I will eat in this whole city is by a red plain. You know, when the old Torah was sitting. On the choice of sitting with the old Torah, I believe in that word. The old Torah said the only kosher food that is any good for him is by this. So, what happened? They go around to this question. Yeah. So the old Torah says, if you bring me the kosher food, you've got to take back the same plate with the same things on it. You've got to take that back. He said, I won't eat it unless I know it came from him, and he won't give me any more unless he knows that that's my plate. He won't give me any. You've got to take back the same plate. That's part of the deal. You know, so this guy didn't know yet. He thought maybe they got some sort of ritual, you know, he didn't know. So this closet also that comes from the you know the management of this huge prison, and they said they got a man and then he eats kosher, and he says, tell me your kosher. He believes, and you know he starts thinking, wait a minute, that's kosher inside the big prison. Who could this possibly be? So all of a sudden they are told something that must be the altar, What does he do? He puts food on the plate, and he lifts up the piece of meat or whatever it is he's sending the altar, and he writes a little note in Rosh pages. He puts it under the piece of chicken or whatever it was he's sending. And he wrote to the altar, please tell me who you are and where you are. The altar knew that was coming up. I said you have to take back the same plate. Made with them an agreement, they would bring the same plate. So when they bring in the food, the altar starts eating the food. He there's nobody around, and also he takes out the message, and this person asks if it's you. The altar didn't have a pen, what he can be scratched. Like on something that he found on the floor, the altar is scratched like a message on the piece of paper, like a confirmation that it was him. So he put he ate a bit of the meat, and he put this underneath that they wouldn't suspect. The beaten, the altar hid it under some vegetables or whatever was there, that shouldn't be noticeable. And they came and took it. They, according to the agreement that this minister made, everything had to be the way the altar is, and they took it back to this closet. And he takes up the food, you see. So there was this tremendous super by the city that they found that the altar was alive. And they found where he was. The altar was him. So they knew he was in the prison. And then they started, made this tremendous. They decided they're going to bribe a few people. So they collected in a few days a huge sum of money. And you weren't allowed to collect money because the government didn't allow you to do it. So they gave a terror to the altar. His wife was left alone. They'd taken him to prison, and she had nothing to eat and everything. So they had to gather money to look after her. But they gathered a lot more money than what they needed to look after her. They didn't tell them that. They gathered a huge sum of money. Later they used that to bribe the authorities and get all sorts of things that they needed. There was a big sum of money, something like 60,000 rubles. They should some money. In other words, a lot of the city gave away everything they had. They gave all that for nothing to help the Altar. That's how it went. The whole time there was all these amazing developments. You know, the Altar was always on the upper hand. You know, he always came out. He got his finger above them. He knew exactly what he was doing, and always he had them, as it were, under his control. Until, as we pointed out, even the Tsar came to see him. Even the king came to see the Altar. He dressed himself up in a commoner's dress, like a businessman. And as soon as he walked in, as I told you, like the Altar had a broker that you make on Goyish king. As soon as he came in, he was just dumbfounded. He's coming in to disguise himself. He wants to try and find out a bit about the Altar Rebbe. And as soon as he walked through the door, the Altar Rebbe made this statement in a loud voice. So he says to the Altar Rebbe, "What's that? What did you say?" So the Altar Rebbe said, "I made a blessing on a king." So he just, dropped on the floor. He said, "How do you know I'm a king?" So the Altar Rebbe told him that because when he came in, he felt a new Yerushalayim and a new, like, Kabbalah Tzedek. The Altar Rebbe said he had a tremendous experience of Yerushalayim. When you see a king, you're supposed to feel a Yira. That Yira is the Yira of the age. The Altar Rebbe felt that, as he knew straight away. He knew he was the king, didn't know what sort of clothes he had on. They had a whole discussion. The Altar Rebbe told him, and gradually these people began to realize who they had. It was an amazing personality, and then eventually led to the trial with the whole Arichis. We have to say to time. We have to realize that the Rebbe is in charge of the world. And the Rebbe's finger is on the upper hand. Keep the service given Yama, just like it was then. And even though there have been terrible events that have happened, and like we said last night, we don't really know what the reason why there had to be that way. Although we have thousands and thousands, millions of people throughout the whole world want to know what it's about. When I drove home last night in the taxi, even before I could start talking, I had a whole talk with him. He says to me, he's not my usual guy, he says to me, "What is Chabad? What Mila is Chabad?" He said, "Nishomei Kolas Man Chabad." I'm hearing the whole time Chabad. He said, "What is Chabad?" He didn't know what Chabad meant. He didn't know what meant Chokmah Bina V'das. He just thought it was some name. I told him Chokmah Bina V'das, and he said, he's a Chokmah Bina V'das. He didn't have the faintest idea what Chabad really meant. So you got millions of people hearing this word Chabad. They don't really know what's the Chokmah Bina V'das. So I spent my drive home last night, explained to him what's Chokmah, what's the Bina. It wasn't that. As I got close to home, it shows you how people listen if you tell them the right thing. He said to me, he said, "Meli shedas hu yoter chashuv mi'hashnai." He said the das is more important. That was another one. He listened very carefully. He came to the conclusion that das was more important than Chokmah. I don't know if it's an importance. It's certainly more committing, and it's much deeper, and it's the final tachlis of everything he's done. And he picked that up and he got the text. To show you, if you talk to people, you get through an outcome. It's completely the work. Absolutely right. So you've got millions, tens of millions of people who heard about a Beit Chabad, and they saw a picture of a Beit Chabad, Chabad house, and it could be that there are millions of people who don't know what Chabad means. They don't know what's in the touch Chabad. So later, there'll be a very proper thing about telling the world what is Chabad. What people should know. Yeah, what is Chabad? Maybe there's a few people around the table also. Maybe we should tell them what is Chabad. Maybe we should tell ourselves what is Chabad. What is good or bad. L'chaim. And we should also tell them what is the Rebbe. What really is the story. And anything to be afraid of, nothing to hide about, nothing to be afraid of. Because people all over, there are millions of Earth, etc. a person, they would be very pleased if they know what it's all about. Particularly when they see that this guy's got a control over the world that other people don't have. Because other people don't have a control over the world in a good way. The Rebbe has control over the world only mitzvah Elokus, only mitzvah Tein, Elokus. That people have never heard of before. A control which is only good and only divine, they've never heard of that one. And I think that's what we've got to, that's our message. That's what we're going to teach people. That's what we're going to say. And just by the way, that's what we're going to teach ourselves. Well, we mentioned before there were quite a few visits to the altar itself. And the famous one at the Ayurveda story with the old family that Sita didn't know really about it. We mentioned it last night also to a certain extent. So that one's gone on, and then there was a visit of the Tsar and other people that came into question about the Ayurveda. And there's just one very interesting story that occurred when they were taking the altar over. They took him out of the cell to a place of interrogation where they had to interrogate him. And out in the courtyard of the prison there were some boys who were playing. These boys were members of the royal family. They were members of the Tsar's family. One of them was, he was what they called the heir, what they called the prince, something like that. The prince heir, the one that after the king is, he's still the one that they go. He was relatively young, he was only in his late teens. But he was a Russian Marusha, what his name was, I forget his name. But he was a Russian. Evil person. He was playing with some kids in this courtyard. They took the altar through, and the altar was accompanied by the taking the question. So all of a sudden, this kid sees the altar being taken. He picks up a stick, runs over to the altar, and looks up the stick. The altar turned. So he ran to hit the altar with the stick. So the altar turned around, the altar looked at him in the eye, and all of a sudden his hand just shook like that, and the stick fell out of his hand. And so the altar turned away and went on. I see him say that Dad said the kingship fell out of his hand. When he got on the throne, he was only there for a few, I would mention about a year and 6 months, and he got some terrible disease, and he was too bad. And he was only on the throne. And then they took over, I've forgotten their names, took over another king. He was a very, sort of merciful, clement sort of person. He was the one who decided to let the altar be out. The second place, the Hanukkah, either the third night of Hanukkah or the fifth night of Hanukkah, giving opinions about it. That was when the altar was let out on the second time. In some ways a more difficult arrest, even though he wasn't in a big prison, he was sort of kept out in a house. They applied to this Tsar, and this Tsar, he personally said they should let the altar be out. But the only thing he demanded of the altar was that he should stay in the area of the big city. He shouldn't go out into the town. Because he knew that he had a lot of power. He didn't. But in the end, they applied to the king, and he even agreed about that, and the altar went. It's only he said that he has to change his town. He can't put very much in the same town. So that's when the altar left. He originally went to the Abbey. There was another town called the Abbey. And the altar went to... Therefore, a lot of the Polish sitting on the altar was allowed over the Abbey. The second part of the altar was Korea was in the town. At the beginning, it was the Margit in the ocean. Anyway, that's what, as to take the altar to be questioned, all of a sudden the Rebbe turns around and this kid, the thing fell out of his hand. And they said that that's the shot that the scepter of the future fell out of his hand. So eventually they get to the trial. I mean, you've heard about the trial. I mean, when they tried the Alter Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe said that he would like to write his answers in writing. It's well known that there are two main avenues of accusation. One accusation was that the Alter Rebbe was supplying money to the Turks. Russia and the Turks at that time was war. they accused the Alberta of supplying the enemy with command, supporting the enemy against Russia, against the royal regime. That was very serious. I mean, that was true. That was very serious. Okay? The next one was that they accused him of altering the Jewish religion. And what do they get if they alter the Jewish religion? They timed it up to now to part of the state. Who's in English? See the you and me. Okay? So who's it going to be? Yeah? My answer? Huh? Am I going to bring with you? Huh?
No.
So shut up. All right? Just shut up. Okay? That's the way to do it. The Alter Rebbe was accused of changing the Jewish religion. And one of the things they had against him was that he told people to daven barikas. And that the whole Jewish prayer is built around Tefillah B'Asora. And that since he's telling people to daven barikas, that he's changing the Jewish religion. Oh, serious, if you don't mind, put your knee down, okay? It's, and things like that. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable that the Alter Rebbe had to answer. Oh, we know it to them. They know what davening bari. They don't have the faintest idea. But it was all part of the plot to get him in somehow. So the Alter Rebbe, oddly enough, he wrote big explanations in Rosh Kodesh why he thinks that people should daven bari. Why they should learn to now, the whole way that you can get nowadays, it's actually printed in a sort of a sefer. All the things that the Alter Rebbe wrote, it's really quite amazing. It's really mind-boggling what he wrote to these Croatian chances. They got all there about Yiddishkeit, about davening bari, davening Hebrew,
Is the name of what that's
I don't know, you can get something about something. You can buy it. It's actually printed. All the answers, but so anyway, the Alter Rebbe said he wants to do it right. So he wrote in Rosh Kodesh. So it's going to be translated into Russian. I mean, it's quite a bit of Russian. Translated like that into Russian. So the Mishnayim, they came along, they bribed the authorities, they paid a huge sum of money, and the Mishnayim got hold of the manuscript. The Alter Rebbe manuscript. They translated it into Russian. You can just imagine what. I mean, they wrote the most horrific thing. And the Kislev didn't know about it. And she was. But this had happened. And 62 days before the trial, this document's going to be brought in front of the judges. If they say, I mean, the Alter Rebbe is going to be finished. So all of a sudden, on the big city, he found out what had been happening. So one of the city, Mamish took on himself, Mamish and he went and hid in the room of this minister of the government that was in his power at the document. I was laying on his desk. It's sort of the place with the Friedrich Gehry, you know, the Toyal Friedrich Gehry went to the office of the minister and stamped on the paper. That's another story. Anyway, so this guy hides inside a sort of a cupboard or something. How he didn't suffocate. Basically, he hid himself inside this piece of furniture. And he waited until the sun had gone. It was already night time, and when the whole place walked out. Well, he gets out of this cupboard, and he comes up, and he takes that the document away, and he puts the right document in. He stole away the Mishnah, and he put the I mean, this big many people push and big boy, you know, he didn't really know one thing from the other, but what did he really know? So he comes the next day and he sees the document there. He never studied it, he never studied it. It's the same document. And the actual judges, they got the right translation of his Mamish Nisim. I mean, it was perfect on the part of this guy. They'd have found him inside the Taz. I mean, he would have been he would have lost his head in a minute. So it was an amazing thing. So eventually they get the right, version. So I know when I tell the story that happened with the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach was that in the Yom Kippur War, when the Yom Kippur War broke out over here, it was Yom Kippur, it was Shabbos. So into the bargain of being Yom Kippur was also Shabbos. Yom Kippur and Shabbos are very similar. And the whole country just went mad, you know, they could mobilize hundreds of thousands of people during Yom Kippur. But the difficulty was that nobody really realized because Yom Kippur there's no ordinary media or anything. So it's very hard for people to be informed of what they're going to do or where they're going to go. And a lot of the soldiers who were mobilized didn't know what the heck was going on. They didn't understand what they were doing, taking them away. And they came in trucks in the middle of the schools. You felt it, the whole thing was absolutely nonsense. So I got taken into the army and I got Yom Kippur. I also didn't know what the heck. I came home to take a break between Mincha and Nili, as I take a break in the shul. Between Musaf and Mincha. So I come home and all of a sudden there's this huge big notice on my door. That's what they call South Shemona. South Shemona means an immediate mobilization, or that you can't avoid it. You just got to go. See that? And so at the time, I was on my own. My wife was by the living room. I had the children with me. And here I am with this tough Shemona on the door. I got my kids in the house. They're only young at the time. And what am I going to do? You know, it was mind-blowing. So in the end, I rushed all around Geneva and I got people to take my children. I said, you know, I hope it'll only be a few days. None of us knew what was in front of them. And, you know, I'll be back and, you know, did you mind the children? I spread the children around and I went off to the army. So after a whole business, we got out to where we were and everything. And the morale was terrible. People all, because they kept hearing all this news about what was happening down on the sewers. Thousands of people were there. And so all of a sudden one of the officers comes up to me and he said, listen here, you know, he said, you've got to make a good spirit. He said, people like you, you're religious. He said, you're Chabadnik. And he said, you've got to make the morale. You've got to do something. Okay, you know, I'm prepared to work, but what do you want us to do? You know, how do you want to work? He said, well, you have to make a simple. So I need a safe sure, I need a safe. So he said, go get a safe. Go get a safe. Way out in the middle of nowhere, he said, no, you have brochures, we'll give you special permission. He said, just go get a safe Torah, come back. So the whole country's in black, and the whole country was in what he called white at night time. Black at night. All the cars are driving from them without lights, or the rest have these like blue covers over their headlights. So it's like moving around in a, you know, like some demon type world. You know, these blue lights all over the place. It's black. Everything is dark. So I get out on the road and I sort of try to get a lift. And I hit in there. Eventually, I'm going to fall through the beginning. I get to Geneva. I went into the old local army. I liked him very much, and he was a big citizen. I knew he would help me. I hoped he would. So I told him, you know, I could have a safe Torah. So Mummy, you know, a couple of hours he had me a safe Torah. All agreed on, it was, I could take it, I would mock it, I didn't mind what I do with it. Only after the war I had to bring it. I get the safe Torah, here I am, it's on my own, and it's all haywire out there. I got the safe Torah, and we covered it over the talis, and we put some of those over the thing on top of it. When I go out, and here I am with my safe Torah, I just got to find my way. So, anyways, I get all the way up to a Fuller. There's a town, you probably heard of it. In the middle, Galil, there's a place called a Fuller. So I get a lift up there with somebody in this car, and I get out of the car. I'm sort of walking along the street, and I'm trying to work how I'm going to get another tram, to some other place. So all of a sudden, I meet up with a fabrengen. He says, "Oh, what are you doing here?" See me carrying the seat. Oh, what's up in the army? You know what are you doing? So I get a secretary, and he said, "There's a shiro from the road. There's a broadcast from the road." That's what he said. But, can I have a broadcast right now from the road? That's all. That's going to be a broadcast from the road. I said, "Joe." Well, what am I going to do? You know, if I go to the left to get back to my unit as soon as possible, if I'll be illegal, then I'll go listen to the remedy. You know? So I thought, what the heck do they know? They don't really know. They told me they couldn't get a safe phone. They don't know how long it's going to take. I'll go listen to the remedy. So I go with this guy, I come to this place, all these people see me walk in, they're carrying their totally ice. What's he doing there with the safe phone? I come in, and all of a sudden the thing starts working. And you hear the remedies. The remedy says that he's been out the oil. When he came back, there was a big group of Rabbonim waiting for him outside so-and-so. And they wanted to make a world announcement to Jews throughout the world that everybody should fast. It should be a big fast. Total situation. Should fast. And they wanted the Rebbe to sign his name on the fruits, the announcement to the whole world that they should fast. So the Rebbe gets out of steps out of the car, and there's all these waiting for him, and they show him the Rebbe, so looks at him, and the Rebbe all of a sudden just says, "No, he's not going to sign." He says, "We're fucking sure it won't sign." So all of a sudden the Rebbe said, "Ich bin Natznua von Simcha, and I will now einführen Morish Feuer." The Rebbe said, "I'm in a movement of Simcha. You want to bring me into depression? You want to bring me to hate Morish Feuer, leave me like depression." These guys are just dumbfounded. They're wanting to agree with it to go fast. I tell us that people dying. But also the Rebbe says, "Ich bin in a tomorrow from Simcha." And he said, "Look me out, I feel he's very sorry, but he's not sorry." I didn't know what to do. They back away, and everybody just boxes into something. And all of a sudden he says, "fabrengen." In the fabrengen, the Rebbe said why he didn't agree to sign. He didn't tell them, but he told all the Hasidim and everybody who heard the fabrengen. He told them why he didn't agree to sign. And he told the story of the Alter Rebbe, mamish, word for word, like I'm going to tell you. And he said that the Alter Rebbe, in Kislev, when it came to the trial, the Alter Rebbe was brought in front of the judge. Now you have to bear in mind there are three judges. Two were, what common normal judges. I mean, they were Rosh showing, but they were so-called normal judges. The third one, he was a big, free thinker, and he'd been in France. And this was just shortly after the French Revolution. After the French Revolution. I say shortly, a good few years. And what was the big thing of the French Revolution, do you know? The big thing of the French Revolution was equality. Equality. All human beings are the same. There's no well-founded, there's no commoners, there's no nothing. Everybody's the same. So, what does it come down to? The last question, of all the questions, the last one was, how come that you wrote in the first chapter of your book called the Tanya, that you write that the Goyim are not equal to the Yidden, and not only that, you say that they are from Klippus Hatzmeir, that the Jews are holy and that the Goyim are Klippus. That's what it's about. So they were absolutely furious. And this guy had just been in France, he was learning under because he'd been in in France, and he'd been in the Holy Karate business. So he was burning fury. And they read through all the other answers, but the truth of the matter is that I don't think they really understood a great deal. Because, they were impressed. See, it's very thorough. Well, they come to the last question, and the author didn't write it. He didn't write it, he just left it empty. He just wrote 22 or whatever it was, I think it was the 22nd question, and he didn't write it empty. They're all building up for this one, they're really going to fly with this one. And all of a sudden they look and they see this thing, nothing there. It's not really brought a whole lot of baloney there. The Altarobi, the real coffee that he got, there was nothing with that. So all of a sudden they hold it at the Altarobi, and they say, what's with that? So the Altarobi caught them all by the eye. You can, if you're clever enough, you can stand in front of a number of people and you can catch them. So the Altarobi made a move with his eyes, and he got them all caught with his eyes. And then all of a sudden he smiled. I wish he smiled a smile. And that was it. He never said anything, never wrote anything, never did anything, he just smiled at it. After they said, this is amazing, and they started praising the Altarobi, they started saying, this is unbelievable, and this is a man of divine knowledge, and all those things. They sent the road their way was cooked, and he got included in the one from I never said, I heard him, he was scared. I'm standing in the same I heard him. I never said, what happened here? The Altarobi gave a smile. A smile is a movement of sympathy. It's an Indian of sympathy. I'm going to doubt you with the didim, Koshi, when the pressure's on to the most critical point, have to show a fluid of sympathy. That that goes up into the didim, now they have a mile, and it's all the didim. That's what I use the expression, mamti, didim. Therefore, the Rebbe says, we've got to be sympathy. So we get this mamish, the hate of what everybody thought. Everybody could never have dreamt that the Rebbe would tell everybody to be the sympathy. It was a terrible situation. Everybody was just completely supportive of the Rebbe. Everybody has to be the sympathy. And there was this great sympathy that they started singing. People singing the sympathy. And the whole place goes. And I'm standing there holding the same time. I got to go back to this army situation. I got to go back to Syria. I got to tell them that everybody's going to be happy. So that was it. So I eventually get back there. Now, sir, everybody listen. I'm sorry, you guys. We're going to be there. I'm going to get a super trailer. I'm telling you, it should be a wish for all the Jews throughout the world. So after I built the sukkah, one of those camouflage tents, camouflage covers. I put 4 poles up, and I made the 4 walls of the sukkah out of a camouflage net. I was a bit worried because it's made of a hole. I was worried maybe it's putting too much in it. Maybe it's not a kosher wall. And I found out. I got a field telephone. I found out the robber. The miracle is that I got him. I put a telephone. There weren't any telephones. It was one of these things, a field phone. I actually got the robber. And I asked him, was it kosher? He said, yes, it's kosher. And you can use it. We built the sukkah out of a camouflage tent. And then we went around all over the place, and we eventually found some stuff. Pieces of trees had been cut off somewhere. We've always sukkah. I found an old shell case, just the same size as the Sefer Torah. I put that up in the sukkah. I stood on top of a big bottle. I had got the shell case, and then I made a sort of a door that fitted it with nails. I made a door, that was the orange finish. I put the Sefer Torah inside. One of the guys, he was a little spoiled sort of a guy, and he used to sleep in these little field tents. And he brought a special, little thing to cover himself. He called it a quilt to cover himself at night. So I told you I have to donate that to the shul. I took that, put my hand up on the pot. That was a parade. That was a parade. That was our sukkah. And I didn't pull down the sukkah on Hoshana Rabbah because I wanted to keep it as a shul. So that sukkah became the shul. The other thing is you don't have to keep schach. That's a bit of a shiloh to keep schach. So we took down the schach just before Simon came in, and we found some boards. I don't know where I got them. We threw them up on the roof. Now it was like a little room, you know, it was like a little hut. And we danced in there, and the guys, they're all up on the cannons, and everybody jumping down. The big general officer came over. They said, "You guys are crazy." He's shouting, but this one's coming down, this one's dancing, this one's going back, and he lost control. And he said, "You can't go there, you can't do that way, you can't. He got himself all confused. But I said, you know, if they come and bomb us now, I said, you know, we've had it. So it was really amazing. That's all on the track. That's that moment. You got to be simple. And that was the opposite. That was the most That's the story of the winning trial. That's the story of the winning. So that's what I told these people in Leeds. The story. I said, don't think this is a terrible blow. This is good to the world. Don't get a foot around the monsters. You've got to document find a way of bringing ourselves to Him. So see if we should mitzvah. So we got to take away the whole life. And there's an unbelievable moment to get to the water. This taxi driver said to me one time, "What is Chabad?" He's seen thousands of newspaper headlines about Chabad. He's been watching television, who knows what, and he doesn't even know what Chabad, what is the Taj Chabad, he doesn't know, you know what Chabad is. So I mean, there must be thousands of millions of people out there, they don't know either. So it's a tremendous opportunity. I don't know what we're going to do with it. I'm sure people in the Chabad houses throughout the world are really thinking about it. We've got to tell people the real magic. And we got to tell people about the Rebbe of Chabad. Not the Chabad, it's the Rebbe. And I checked it out. It's actually not. I saw a very somebody book, a neighbor of mine. He put me a copy of that thing I told you about from the prison. How he actually said it. It's really the Yiddish. It's just quite humble. He said that there'd be Jews throughout the world, and they would tell the world about Hashem. And he said that, for example, there'll be one in India, and it could be he'll be, in his whole area he'll be isolated, and he'll do tremendous work. He'll spread the word of Hashem both even and Goyim. And then there'll be a moment where people will run around asking, is he still alive or is he dead? It's unbelievable. He actually said, and then he said, afterwards, you can wait for Moshe. After that, this moment, this morning, there's absolutely no doubt about it that, it's an unbelievable moment. These people go through what they went. It's a people, it's every Yitzchak, as I mentioned last night, Mom was to see what they came to Yitzchak. He said, the Rebbe says, his girlfriend, Mom, we should be careful, even without being careful, we should just make it. And she says, come on, pray, they're taking it, we have no. shooters running into a cop. They told the Alter Rebbe on new test, and it's exactly the same kabiyos that occurred as it was this year, as it was Tuesday, Pasha Yesha. This is right now. They told the Alter Rebbe on new test, but until they actually let him out, and he actually left the prison, it was already caught, already come out of court. And for a moment, they asked the Alter Rebbe whether they want to put it up, where does he want that they should take it. Not far from where the prison was, there was a bureau, like an apartment, where one of the Alter Rebbe's very faithful citizens lived. So the Alter Rebbe gave the name of the supervisor, and he said he wants to be escorted on the prison to that out. So they made a mistake, and they didn't listen carefully to what the Alter Rebbe said, and they didn't think to do, all that many Hasidim or all that many important Jews in the town. So they walk in, and there was another Jew who lived in the building, but he was a Mishnagim. He was one of the really big Mishnagim. They see the Jewish name, and they thought, they bang on the door, and he opens the door, and the Alter Rebbe tried to complain, but they wouldn't listen. They pushed the Alter Rebbe in, and slammed the door, and they found the John the Alter Rebbe is in the house with Mishnagim. So after a while, the Alter Rebbe wakes up, he's in the wrong, he's in the wrong house. Not his closet, but for a fellow. And he was, he woke up for they started cursing the Alter Rebbe, carrying on. The Alter Rebbe said later that was harder for him than all the Jews who treated him like that was harder than but it worked. So anyways, after a while, this fellow wakes up. You have a guest, and you have to offer him something. So he boiled up a cup of tea, and he offered the Rebbe a cup of tea. So the Alter Rebbe took it. Since he's offering to it as a guest, then he'll take it. And the Alter Rebbe thank you for what it was taken. And so then the Mishnagim began to calm down a little bit. He began to see people just took one look at the Alter Rebbe and they saw what they were dealing. So he said, listen, I want I'll get to my message that the real person was supposed to be as close enough to but I want to make an agreement with you that you'll visit three of the big Rabbanim of our side, and you'll convince them about what you hold, and you talk with them, and let's hear what they say to you, what you have to say today. So the Alter Rebbe gave him an agreement. The Alter Rebbe said, who do you want me to go to? As you mentioned, three big Geonim of the Mishnagim. The Alter Rebbe took the Alter Rebbe said, he's an agreement, but would you please, let me out of here? So he sent a message up, and the Chos had been waiting. He knew that they were going to bring the Alter Rebbe. And he didn't, also he realizes that he's down. So he comes down and he takes the Alter Rebbe out, and that was the end of the story. In the meantime, the Alter Rebbe had to be Mekayim his deal, his agreement. He said he was going to meet these three Geonim, and he did. He went to meet all three of them, and there's all amazing stories happening at each place. It's really quite mind-boggling. The first one was, his name was Tzeitzler, right? So he hears that the Alter Rebbe is coming as he lay down on the bed. He made out as if he wasn't feeling well. And when the Alter Rebbe came in, he didn't get up off the bed. He didn't show him when he covered. He just kept laying on the bed. Also, Vizoyan, not to show he covered. Right? So all of a sudden he says to the Alter Rebbe, constant epistle, and he spoke to him like in Yiddish, you say to somebody, intimate, somebody you know well, or you say do, you. But if it's somebody official, you say ihr. instead of saying, usually to a Rav, you say ear, you wouldn't say do. But he did it in an intimate way, making like playing down the Alter Rebbe's position. So he said, "Kannst du ein bisschen lernen, do? Can you learn a bit of learning?" So the Alter Rebbe didn't answer him. So he said, "Tell me how many times is it mentioned in the Shas Abaya Rov?" It's mentioned in the Shas Abaya Rov. So the Alter Rebbe just never moved, didn't, bat an eyelid. The Alter Rebbe said that Abaya is mentioned X times, and Rov is mentioned X times. So I'm pretty impressed that he says that there's one place that you missed out on. There's one place, it's really 161, let's say, not 160. He said, in this place is mentioned Rov. So the Alter Rebbe said, "I'm sorry, but he said, you have to look up, there's another Girsa there. And the preferred Girsa by most of them, unfortunately, is not Rov, but Rabo. Not Rov, but Rabo. And the fascinating thing is that the first page of the Tanya where he brings it, Rabbi said, "Way Shabbos, the rabbis, way Shabbos, Ma'achaya, before burial." If you, who was it? Abaya said to Rov. So the truth of the matter is, it's really Rabbi. Most people hold it. It's not Rov, but it's Rabbi. The Alter Rebbe bring the Girsa from Rabbi, not Rabbi. I don't think that was the one. But the Alter Rebbe said there's one Mephoshim would say that instead of being Rov, it's Rabbi. So he said, it's only 161. He began to realize that he had to do it. But then he says to the Alter Rebbe, what's this business of telling people that they have to have Av every year? And he said, I looked in your book and it's written, if you don't have fear of Av the air, your mitzvahs don't go up. They don't fly. They don't have wings to fly, they just stay down. He said, where'd you get that? So the Alter said, it's written foolish in the Zohar. Clearly. If you don't have Av every year, your mitzvahs can't go up. So he said, we know anything about the Zohar. We don't pass according to the Zohar. We have to have a monkey either in Bavli or in Yerushalayim. The Alter Rebbe was very calm. The Alter Rebbe said, it's written about it. So all of a sudden he couldn't figure whether that written or not. So then he got up off the bed. That got him up off the bed. He went over to that, and he said, which Gemara shall I take down? Which Gemara shall I take down? So the Alter Rebbe said, Sochim. He said, take down Sochim. They took down Sochim. He said, tell me which stuff is that written. The Alter Rebbe said, Nun, on the base. And Kitzer, it's written over there. And Rashi says also, it's written that the two psukim, one that says that Ki Godel mi al Shamayim Chastelcha, that the Abish says Chesed, is mi al HaShamayim. And there's another pasuk that says Ki Godel al HaShamayim Chastelcha, that your Chesed is only up to the heaven. So the Gemara says, Kan ha'oisim lishmo, Kan ha'oisim shaloi lishmo. Those who do lishmo, and the Abish shows them may al Shamayim. He goes in higher than the heavens. And those who don't do lishmo, the Abish shows them up to the heavens. Rashi says, who the Eish Lishma, Rashi says, Elu ha'oyevim v'yaleim. Doesn't they love and feel the Eish? Akita, he saw that his jaws just fell, So the Alter Rebbe said, it's a piece of Bible. So after that, he started talking properly to the Alter Rebbe, and he sent him away because that was the first one. I got no time to remember the whole reader, but there was another one. But, the second one, the Alter Rebbe comes in there when there were some kids out in the yard, that they've been told that if they ever see a chassid, they have to throw a stone. So they see the Alter Rebbe come in, they see the Alter Rebbe in the yard, and they started throwing stones at the Alter Rebbe. So when the Alter Alter Rebbe didn't want to do it, their children. He let them go. And he comes in, and this guy is also sitting in a big chair, and he didn't get up. And the Alter Rebbe says to him, it's not nice that the children throw the stones. It's not a nice thing. So he said they laugh and they throw stones they throw stones. So the Alter Rebbe said, let's see if after we've met we start throwing stones. So he, okay. So he starts off. What did he start off? Oh, yeah. He said, well, we have to make a bracha. We have to make a bracha. So, would you like to make bracha on wine? So the Alter Rebbe. He gives wine and make a bracha. So he gives a wheat to his wife. She goes, and then after all of a sudden they bring in wine and put it on the table. So what he really did was, he sent a goy, the goy servant, the wife went into the other room, she told the goy to go and get the wine. So the goy's been holding the wine, and it's a message, and the wine drinks. So he puts down from the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe takes a look at the wine, and he says, look, I'm terribly sorry, but he said, it's a big shiloh on your whole wine cellar. Boy, what's wrong with my wine cellar? So he said, listen, you made a mistake, you sent that goy into it. And he said, your wife made a mistake. He said, you put a little bit of wine, and the goy was supposed to take that wine and bring it in. He said, meantime, the goy didn't understand, he went down to the wine cellar. He went to where they keep all the wine. And remember, he was fishing around with all the barrels to try and find out if there was one open. Why should he open a new barrel just to bring a few glasses of wine? And in the meantime, he was shaking all the barrels, so he said, all that wine is behind that. So the Alter Rebbe said, totally sorry, I can't drink this also. He said, but you got a big problem down there with your wine. So when he heard that, he just took off. And then there was another man who said, well, it's not really for bottles. So anyway, he said that he never sits on a chair where a needle was. Oh, wait a minute. Somewhere in the times of the Gemara, certain people did that. So the Alter Rebbe said, well, I'm terribly sorry, you never noticed it. The other day, she sat down by mistake on the chair. So he hadn't realized it. So he's really anyway sitting on a chair where a needle would be. So he just realized that it's like a boxing match. He's getting whopped all over down on the floor. So he also gave the Alter Rebbe a lot of coke. And when he took the Alter Rebbe, he went out to the yard, he said to the kid, don't dare throw any stones. So the Alter Rebbe said that when I leave, they're not going to throw stones also quick. He went out and he told them not to throw stones. Anyway, so that was the reason the Alter Rebbe made to the third one. I got to leave in a few minutes. And I can't remember the phone, just on my leave. We'll talk about it. We see that the Alter Rebbe was mamish in charge of everything, from the beginning until the end. And that was like the last shlav of Yudas Kislev. That's what he promised to Misnagid when he left the house. It was like the last talking. And the last victory of Yudas Kislev. And after that, it began the whole lineage of Yeshua Mind Sefer. So everything spread out in such a way. And as going on, there's a big difference between the Maimon and the Alter Rebbe said before he got arrested. The Maimon, he said after he was arrested. And the whole beginning of what's called Afotzes HaMayonis. The coming out of all the Mayonis began with the Alter Rebbe's release. After he came out, then it began tremendous spreading out of all the Mayonis. And I'm here, Hashem Shalom. But right now, we got as our moment that the Rebbe's brought the Mayonis, Mamish, B'chol Hoyim.